Thank God for gaffer's tape. Yeah, my trusty Denons of, I think I've had these for like 5 years now. I had the previous model for some time prior to that. These things were great. They were like perfect on my ears. I could pull back and have it be comfortable so I can go one ear on it. Great sound. It was just, these were perfect. Unfortunately, Denon no longer makes that model, and the ones that they have now are way too chunky, way too tight. I've tried those out before. So we're going to do something a little different here. It's the battle of the headphones. So yeah, I may have gone a little overboard on this, but I'm very critical on my sound, and these just represented what was essentially the best feedback I'd heard from all the headphone manufacturers. Talk about all four of these. First, and probably the most popular of them all, were the V-Moda Crossfade M100s. These are by far package-wise probably the most slick out of all of them, the most compact out of it. Definitely nice packaging as a whole. Frequency range-wise, this goes well beyond the human hearing, all the way down from 5 hertz all the way up to 40,000 kilohertz. So this will definitely cover the spectrum on that. These have a 32 ohm impedance on it, so very solid. You should be able to drive these with virtually anything that you throw at it. It has a speaker sensitivity of 107 decibels, so you should be able to hear all the quiet notes that you throw at these. Let's go ahead. Let's unbox this. So right off the bat, they do have a very rugged carrying case for this. It feels very sturdy. At 250 bucks, this is actually, I think, the most expensive out of all the ones that I'm trying. Little cantilever on here as well. Very nice cushioning inside. This does have cables over here on the side. You actually get your option of 2 cables throughout. You do have this one with a more so a 45-degree angle, and you have an extender on this that actually breaks out. So you definitely have, and these are nice braided cables as well. Very nice feel for these. I don't think they're going to get snagged or anything. I'm sure some long-term users will chime in on that in the comments, but definitely seems to be of very high quality. I will say, oh yeah, adapters. I will say these seem very substantial. They're still pretty lightweight, definitely heavier than the Denons that I have. Metal construction on the ends, which is very solid. This is very appreciated that everything is kind of exposed and all that too. You do have your wiring out here. Now I'm assuming that all these can be replaceable, at least sending over back to V-Moda on this. I do know that they have the changeable faceplates that are available on it. I definitely know a few people that have had them. You have your port to connect your cable over here. Definitely just has a nice silky, but not like you're gonna lose grip on these by holding them. I'm very taken aback of how substantial the ear mounts are into here. By far, this is not what I was expecting when I opened this. Of course, at 250, I thought that these would be solid, but these are far more substantial than I thought. All right, for the fit test, let's see if this extends out. Adjustments on this, very solid clicks for it to come into place. Now these do actually feel quite comfortable. They're a little firm on the ears, but it doesn't seem too much. I will be testing these out because I am going to spend a little time with each one of these headphones, testing them out for at least some substantial time while I'm doing all this. But these actually feel quite comfortable. The fabric on the cups really feel super comfortable. They're very, very soft. Again, I am taken aback at the construction level of this. This, for the price, feels like an extraordinarily solid headphone for it. But we are going to test things out and everything, but we're going to go ahead and unbox another. So the next one wasn't quite as recommended as the V-Moda, but a lot of people were mentioning these AudioTechnica ATH-M50Xs. There was an M50 prior to this. This is the updated model on it. Again, the quality of the box seems substantial on this. Definitely a decent amount of material. Has its own soft case. Nowhere near the hardness of the V-Modas. A little bit of protective plastic around here. All right, so off the bat, these do look a little larger than the V-Modas. Matter of fact, the V-Modas definitely have a little less padding on these, but it definitely didn't feel uncomfortable by any stretch of the imagination. These Audio-Technicas definitely feel, I would say, is like a little bit more the older school headphones from a time ago. I remember one of the first headphones I got way back in the 70s, some Koss ones. They were brown, but they had this substantial feel. So this definitely feels a little more substantial. It actually has a similar design, so that way you can rotate your cups like my Denons had. Unfortunately, this is the area that it broke. Now, this is also plastic as well, so I'm assuming this could over time fail like the Denons did. But I want to say this has a bit more of plastic around it, so it may just fail less than others. I like the clear left and right on the backs of this. Again, everything feels nice and soft. The cups feel very soft as well, although not as soft as the V-Modas. Let's go ahead and do a fit check on this. The clicking on this is definitely far looser, so I'm assuming, as you go through some wear and tear on it, it may feel a little bit more looser over time, not as substantial as the V-Modas. These definitely go far more over the ears. I have big ears. Of course, I'm sure everybody's noticed this. They do have a little bit more pressure on the sides than the V-Modas. Not necessarily a bad thing, but I could see some more fatigue as you use these over time. If I cup to the back like I used to with the Denons, it's kind of pulling from the back, so I'm not going to be able to do that as much. Maybe if I let it rest still a little bit on my ear. They are a bigger cup. My Denons was a much smaller cup on it, and they were just over your ears. As opposed these encapsulate the ear as a whole. Again, I want to be testing these out IRL and give you some things on this. For some tech specs on these. Tech specs on these still goes beyond what should be human hearing, so all the way down to 15 hertz, all the way up to 28,000 kilohertz. These do take 38 ohms to drive these, so it is a slight difference from the V-Modas. These are about $100 less than the V-Modas so far, just from the touch and feel, the construction. These definitely seem very worth the price and all that. But again, I'll be checking some tonality on that and how these feel over time, see if there's any real fatigue and all that. Let's go to our next. All right. These had to be like the dark horse. I wasn't expecting these. These have been around for a very, very long time. I want to say 1991. So these have been around a damn long time. These are definitely studio reference quality at a good price. I do believe, I think these were like about $100. So very budget-minded, good quality. The box definitely seems a little more cheaper. Definitely not as nice as the previous two. Let's go ahead. We're going to open this up. Now, I will say a little more haphazard on just the boxing and all. A little soft cover for this. I want to say of the three so far, this is probably the lowest quality side of it. Of course, I'm not paying for covers for this. I am paying for this bad boy. All right, so initial impressions just coming out of the box. This does have a permanent mounted cable. That is not necessarily a bad thing, of course, but it is something to consider on this. The construction, just off the bat, has a very it's kind of hard to explain. There's definitely some more tension, it seems, kind of in the middle, so things are really coming together really quickly on it. Exposed wiring on this, again, I'm sure will allow for better serviceability of this. But again, if these break, these are a far less expensive option to consider. I do appreciate it actually has left right in different colors, so it definitely helps visually where things should be. Once again, not impressed with the old school Sony design, but again, these are essentially ancient headphones, and you know, people still swear by this, love this as studio monitor on it. The clasp definitely a little bit more higher quality, it seems, than the Audio-Technicas, so I don't assume that these would wear out that much. These definitely have a very comfortable feel to it. I could see these being very comfortable over time. You know, when you're doing a 3, 4+ hour set, you know, I'm going to be doing this a lot, and then this back again, and this a lot, and this back again, and it seems very nice. Like it's clasps onto the ears well. It doesn't feel, and the one thing I was considered as a potential negative is that the wider cans would end up just being a little bit too isolation. Again, I'm going to test these out soon in real life, but those were actually pretty comfortable. I do want to say I'm not the biggest fan of how wide the top part is on this. It does have a nice soft feel to it. The by far the I don't want to call it cheapest feel, but these do not feel nearly as nice as the Audio-Technica nor the V-Modas. But that's not to say that they feel bad. They just don't have that extra soft aspect on it. But these are, you know, reference headphones. People have sworn by these for years. People have sworn by these for years and years. And they're still around. This design has not changed literally in decades. Now, tech spec wise, 63 ohm impedance on this, so definitely much different than the other two. This does go all the way down to 10 hertz, all the way up to 20 kilohertz. So not as broad, at least on the top end of some of the others, but let's face it, most people can't hear above 20 kilohertz. Especially once you get up there in age, you're lucky if you can even achieve that. I've been very lucky where I can still hear most of the effective range. These also have 40 millimeter drivers on that, so appreciate the substantial size of the drivers. Again, people swear by the accuracy of these. So again, we'll be testing these out soon, but one more to go. All right. This was by far probably the second most popular headphone that was recommended, the Sennheiser HD25. Of course, Sennheiser, an extraordinarily recognized brand. Of course, I use it for my microphones and my in-ear monitor. These are supposed to be super, super lightweight, and of course, it has the cup design a little bit more similar to what I have in my Denons. But we'll go ahead and do a little unboxing here. So off the bat, maybe some of the more cheapest of the boxing paper for this. Not that that's necessarily super important, but it is something to consider. Also loud. So by far the most diminutive, the lightest of all these by a country mile on this. For the longest, I always saw it in this kind of open design, so I had assumed that was the standard design of it. Didn't know that they at least close up, so that may be consider these more Definitely has a very, I want to say more substantial exposed element to it compared to the others. It's again, nothing necessarily wrong with it. I'm sure it helps with the serviceability on that, but something to consider on it. There's by far less padding on top. Not that you necessarily need this. The adjustments on this, very clicky on this. I can assume these would not wear over time. Probably next to the V-Modas, these probably have the most clickiness of the settings. Just taking a look again at just some of the other stuff. I do wish it had a removable cable, just because sometimes these will snag, and if you have to go through and replace whether it's the entire headset or at least have this serviced, it becomes a bit of a problem. It's the only one with a right angle connector on this. Oh, one more thing to think about, the cups actually swivel on this. That's a very innovative design. I really appreciate that, especially because I'm constantly back and forth. I do like to hear the audience, but I don't always want a studio monitor near me. I don't use one when I'm doing weddings, but if I'm at a club or something like that, I definitely have that on, off. All the time. I'm sure it gets annoying to some people. I'm digging this. Again, it's the only one that comes super close to the original Denon feel in the headphones. It's a little bit more, I don't want to say necessary plasticky feel, but it's not that super soft leather that like the V-Modas have. So it's not as pleasant to feel. Not that it feels bad by any stretch of imagination. It definitely has some nice grip on it, but doesn't feel like I would deal with fatigue or anything over time. It definitely has just a nice, decent amount going on and on. And this is a little annoying having the cable not being able to come off. But it's not quite like the Sonys, where again, if you pulled the Sonys apart, they came right back together. So I had this very flat with the cups kind of really adjusting on this. So that is definitely handy, having the cup swivelable like this. It is a little bit of resistance on it, so I can't see doing it too often. Just having it kind of rest on the back of my head, that's actually quite comfortable. Probably more comfortable than the others right now. My headset isn't flying anywhere, so that is nice. So I guess I wouldn't use the swivel necessarily as much. However, having that ability is very, very nice. Tech spec wise on these Sennheisers, they go all the way down to 16 hertz, all the way up to 22,000 kilohertz, so a bit beyond the typical human hearing on both sides, so you should hear the full range of it. The V-Modas definitely has, I almost want to say slightly outrageous numbers, but hey, that's what they put in here. These also take 70 ohms to drive, so it's a little bit different compared to the rest. Like all four of these have some type of different resistance that's listed. By far, these things are so light. I cannot stress compared to all the others on the board. I think I could buy two of these and still be lighter than the others. So by far, if you're looking for something super light, there's just no competition in that regard. I am curious if this pulls over time. I would always wear it in this. I can't imagine wearing kind of a split kind of look in it. Although I guess it might be more beneficial if you do that. But yeah, these Sennheisers are just really solid. I'm always a little concerned because we got these wires that are coming out from the side that I'm going to pinch them or something like that. But they actually designed this just so there's enough clearance in it so it doesn't look like it would ever pinch. And again, these have been around for so long. Clearly, the test of time has proven these very, very worthy. But yeah, these are seemingly some fairly amazing headphones. All right, so now we're going to fast forward over some time because I'm going to test all four of these out in the real world, see what the sound is like, see what the kind of practicality of day-to-day use is. I'm going to come back with some results.
3 weeks later.
All right, everybody. I did take a good couple weeks to make this decision. Originally, I thought it was going to be super quick. I actually eliminated 2 relatively quickly, but I kept on going back and forth between 2 others. So let's, just go back to this process here. I went down into my lab, down into the basement. I also have my hi-fi just adjacent here. Plug them in and basically just listen to music as casual music listening would have, and then of course performance inside of an event. Just simply put, the first 2 again were knocked off very quickly. AudioTechnica was the very first out there. They were way too heavy, easily twice the weight of some of the others. The sound production on it I just didn't like. The staging was a little weird. It sounded a little bit mushed, a little crunchy, if you will, almost a little hollowness at time. Did have good bass response, but definitely just way too large, way too heavy for something I wanted. So those went to the side. Up next were the V-Modas, and I really thought these were going to be the victor. I unpackaged them, and they were just luxurious feeling. The metal construction was just super, super solid. They were, heavy, but not too heavy. They're just a really, really good quality. And I can definitely see where people really liked it. It has a really, really pronounced bass response. Not necessarily exactly what I was looking for, but they did sound really good. But they weren't great. There's some other better ones, I think, for the sound-wise. But it was really the comfort that did it in. Even though they felt really good on the ears, my big-ass head, my glasses and all, they just, after 10, 12 minutes, they didn't feel good. I actually was starting to sweat pretty quickly on them as well. And after, I want to say I probably spent 12 hours or so with them. I was just like, nah, it just wasn't going to fit. So that left 2, the Sony and the Sennheiser. The Sony's by far has the most accurate response music-wise, but it does lack a little bit in the bass side. And if you're doing studio reference quality stuff, the Sony's are absolutely the way to go. They aren't noise canceling, but the way that they fit on your ears, it really isolates that sound very well. It's very the accuracy is second to none. So if you're looking for a good studio reference, these are definitely it. Then I had the Sennheisers, by far the lightest of them all. Fits very, very comfortably on the head. Just a little bit more on the punchiness of the bass. And I really felt that the accuracy was very, very close to the Sony, but not quite. But after some consistent use, I brought them down to Atlantic City during my rooftop set. I've brought them to a few events. I've also brought the others to events just to, again, try them out. And by far, the Sennheisers became the victor in this. Now, there are a couple caveats in this. When you have them out of the box and you go to put them on, something sounds a little off. It's because they're inverse. The cord comes out of the right. Little odd, something I had to get used to. And again, because they actually fit pretty well on the opposite side, I didn't even recognize it as first. But of course, I read up on it. That is the way that they've done it. Technically, it makes more sense for us, the cord to be just a little bit closer to the path and not have it cross our body. So I guess in theory, it would actually be even better with the Sennheisers, but it was just something to get used to. And they are just super, super light. I never felt that they were going to fall off my head or anything, but some people may want that more substantial weight, where something like the AudioTechnica, even the Sonys or the V-Modas would definitely satisfy that. But if you're looking for a great long wear, really accurate sound, you don't sweat too much, just all these combinations and factors, the Sennheisers by far, these are the ones to get. If you're looking for something a little bit more reference, maybe a little bit less bass in its in its sound and all that, the Sonys by far takes the victor on that. But for me, the Sennheiser HD25s are easily the ones that I want to wear time and time again. Well, I hope you like this video, and if so, please comment below, hit that thumbs up. Having this kind of response really helps the algorithm. Please stay tuned for more.